by saying that we say that we're not oppressed, but we carry it with us every day, all the time. We do it in so many ways. It's become such an intricate way in which we have engaged one another that we can hardly recognize it anymore. We see it as a part of ourselves. My brother Naeem Akbar said some of us have distorted self-disorder. My other brother Harold Ramsher says we got an alien self-disorder. And one other sister, Lillian Gomez-Deasy, said that everybody in America is suffering from post-colonization stress disorder. We have undergone many, many, many oppressive acts. And we've internalized them. And I think I begin by briefly telling you my story. I grew up in a town in West Texas, a town named Floyd Dana, where a man named Floyd, and I'm not lying, and his wife named Ada, they got together and made a town. And in Florida, Texas, everybody talks like this. I didn't know words like this and that were only one syllable words until I went to college. It's a country town. And in Florida, I remember being a little girl and I remember seeing a bathroom. One said white and one said colored. And I asked my mom if I could go to the bathroom. I really didn't need to go, you see. I just wanted to see a purple, green, pink, yellow commode. And when I got there, it was white, just like the home. And I remember running out to my mom and I said, Mama, those people lied. That bathroom's not colored. It's white. And she said, provided they're not talking about the bathroom, they're talking about you. Well, I still couldn't figure it out. Because children in that concrete stage of cognitive development, if you say it's supposed to be one color, it's supposed to be that color. So with the innocence that only a child possesses, I said, okay, I've never seen purple, green, yellow, pink bathrooms, but I sure have seen me some colored water, so when I saw that water fountain that said white and colored, I went up to it. I knew I was getting me some Kool-Aid. And I went up to that water fountain, and I turned it, and it was clear just like at home. That's when it hit me. That it was something wrong or different about me. That meant I couldn't drink from that same fountain that the little white girl was at. I couldn't go to the same bathroom. There was some feeling that it was dirty or bad or something, because later I noticed that devil's food cake was dark, like me. But angel's food cake was white. Later I noticed that magic was all right unless it was black magic. Later I noticed that mail was okay until it became black mail. And then somehow, even a lie became all right if it was a white lie. And integrating the psychological barriers that our language imposes on us is core to our recovery as a people. I think about children, how when we're born, they're so perfect. I mean, they're so perfect, they will run across the house butt naked, and you cannot tell them they don't look good. They don't have any eating disorder, body image distortions. You can't tell them they don't look good. They have confidence in themselves. They'll see you bringing in groceries, they'll take the sack and you say, that's too big. Oh, I can do it. Yes, I can. And they will. They're honest in relationships. If your breath is bad, they'll tell you. And they're trusting. They go up to perfect strangers and they will tell that stranger, I love you. And they'll kiss them and they'll mean it. If they have a question and they see someone in a wheelchair, they'll say, what kind of chair is that? And where did you get one? Where can I get one? But sooner or later somebody says, put on your clothes. Somebody says you're too short, you're too fat, you're too tall, you're too skinny, you're too black, you're too white, you're too smart, you're too dumb. And then we get to be adults, spending the rest of our lives trying to get back to the way we were as children, trying to trust again in relationships, trying to believe that our bodies are okay, trying to feel good about our ability to accomplish many things, trying to love again, ourselves and others, unconditionally. So you say to me, what am I doing as a psychologist? Talking about our history, talking about our mental health. Well, I can tell you right now, I work with children from infancy until they get to be adults in geriatric homes. And I've worked the whole gamut of the lifespan, and I see one consistent pattern for our people. To be healthy, you must be connected. And all mental illness is based on a disconnection between the person and the world. So if you're not connected and you're isolated, you're gonna be unhealthy. Now, let's talk about that in terms of what I call a cultural power and control model. I got a couple of handouts. I'm ready for you. I'm overhead. Can y'all see? Yep. Kind of funny on the bottom. Okay. I have a cultural power and control model. And this model is kind of an extract from the work that I've done with domestic violence and abuse survivors. But I'm going to explain it from the social cultural perspective of an African person living here in America and across the world. Now, you heard me say about disconnection, and that is a core component of being mentally ill. The first symptom of depression is withdrawal. The first symptom of schizophrenia is delusion, hallucination, seeing things that aren't there, not being connected with reality. Some of us have disconnected because we're experiencing this first phase. If I were to make a victim, these are the things I know to do as a psychologist. And because I do hypnosis with some of my patients, I know all you have to do is repeat it over and over. I tell you, you're a duck long enough, you'll be quacking. I'm telling you, I can do it. Thank you, brother. So in isolation, and where are we isolated? We're isolated in our classrooms. We're isolated in our work environments. We're isolated in our relationships. We're isolated in our churches. We're isolated in our schools. The other way we deal with it is emotional abuse. When I think of the words that they've had for black women over the centuries, bed wench, pickaninny, hot pot, loosey-goosey, stank tank. And you can't tell me that's not emotionally abusive. And now our brothers calling sisters bitches and hoes and my nigga. Where did we get that? We're internalizing oppression. Then we go to look at economic abuse. I don't think you need me to tell you anything about economic abuse. If you're broke and you're black, you know why. We don't know how to save. We don't get paid as much as anybody else for the same or more work. And we don't help each other. We don't use UJAMA. We don't use UJAMA. Collective economics. We don't do it enough. But I can tell you, I bet some college kids know about UJAMA in here. People looking under sofas, under beds and shoes and pants, trying to find some money just to order a pizza. Tell me if I'm lying. I think we know more about Ujama in college because you're broke than you do when you step out in corporate America and you're a CEO and you can't hire another brother or sister. Oh, let me shut up. Then we talk about sexual abuse. People believing, I was at one workshop one time on a committee that they were looking at black girls who were at risk for teen pregnancy. My brother Ron was in that meeting. He's a warrior. He fights on so many grounds. I know he gets to be a tired soldier sometimes. But I walked in that room and they were talking about black girls. I did not see one black woman.
Thank you.
Full of black women, white women and men talking about our daughters. Not a mama in there. Not a black woman in there. To have a voice of what really matters to us. Now, I'm not Oprah, and I'm not every woman. All right. That's right. But I sure know me some black women. The other thing is using children and family. My best example of how our society does that is I would love to just talk for a second about our welfare system. So-called public assistance. So-called human service development. And if it's so developing of families and systems, why is it that if a woman has a man, he can't stay in a house and she can't still get money? They all still broke. And you mean to tell me as a psychologist, it's better for a black child to have only a mama when she's got a man and got a high because the social worker's there? What is that showing us? We should be angry. We should be angry because that is a culturally destructive practice. That's right. And now I'm sure you know about this concurrent planning in Minnesota where if a woman gets her child taken away because of some kind of suspected abuse, or even let's say she's using drugs or her boyfriend's using drugs and they got busted, they'll come and take the child and say, you got if the child is young, I think under 6 years, is it? 7. They'll come and take that baby, you got 6 months to get them back. Now you're in a drug rehab treatment program and we know it takes you at least a year. You won't get out with no family. And that's the law. And then they shipping your children to these places, this woman trying to start an orphanage. An orphanage in 2001. Do our babies belong to us? We need to start claiming them back. That's what I call using children and family. Threats. Oh, we know a lot about being threatened. Just ask any brother riding in a hood. Or even coming into white suburbia at night. Ask any sister in a shopping mall trying to buy her some clothes and some shoes. No, you just got paid. Your money's in your purse. You're not intending to take anything from anybody, but you're trapped like a heat-seeking missile. And even though your visa may have enough to buy you 3 Mercedes-Benz and pay that person's salary for a year, and they start questioning you and say that stuff is not on sale. Then we talk about using white and male privilege in many, many situations. And let me explain where that is. For a woman, I think we can often see it because it's a lot simpler to see male privilege in many places. Because, for example, if there's a business meeting or people are trying to recruit somebody to their college and they say, oh, let's go play racquetball, they talking in that locker room. A girl can't go in there with them. That's male privilege. White privilege, we all kind of know about that one. But just in case you don't, it's a privilege to be able to drive without somebody stopping you. Sure. It's a privilege to be able to be in class and assume that people know you're competent. Right. It's a privilege to be put in a position of authority and responsibility, a responsibility with authority. Right. Not responsibility without authority. Right. To me, being black and being present doesn't mean you're empowered.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right.
Y'all hear me?
Right.
So we have to understand that we don't need to do a little count, although that's helpful. We certainly need to say, well, what power are you giving that person from the university, or from the school, or from that position in the community? What power do they have? Do they have a staff? Do they have a budget? Are you expecting them just to poof, work stuff out of miracles, and you're not doing that with other people? We get set up a lot. Then we have intimidation. Intimidation is not necessarily the threat, it's just the history of threats. And I think that's one of the most violent weapons in this arsenal of oppression. Intimidation. It's intimidating to think about the fact that Willie Lynch said that 300 years black folks would be stabbing each other in the back. He said, pit the light ones against the dark ones if you want to make a slave in his historical document. He says, pit the light ones against the dark ones, and the north side from the south side, and the poorer from the richer, and the older from the younger. And don't tell me we don't still have that internalized. It's so bad that when our babies are born, I can't say about this all over the world, but I'm from the South, I can tell you what I know. They start checking the baby's ear. Soon as the baby gets born. Do y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
To see how black the baby's gonna be. What the heck is that about? Why do you need to know how black the baby's gonna get? That's just remnants from internalized intimidation. So when I come here today, I want you to just think about how in your relationships you're carrying the burden of that intimidation and this system of oppression. And the only way that a people can be healed of this is to realize that there has to be a change. And it may not come from the outside, because let me tell you something. This one woman, Lucretia Mott, once said, any great change will undergo great opposition. She said because it reaps and shakes the very foundation of privilege. So if you're going to change something, let me tell you now that the powers that be do not want to see a change. Okay, I'll just use that. I like to use this because it says, in case you can't see, the mission is possible. Building competitive advantage through your people. Now you see the people? Let me help you out. They got a little diversity. They got Henry Kissinger. He's a descendant he's an immigrant. They have Alicia, what's her name over here? That's Zan. Here she is, a woman. And what I call that is the WEP, Women Exchange Program. As soon as one goes, they can't get more than one. As soon as one goes, they'll fill that gap and don't look any further. No. And you know the kids at University of Texas, I want to give y'all a howl. Y'all in here? It's all right, that's my babies right there. From University of Texas, before I left, they said, oh no, Dr. Garrett, you're leaving. They're going to implement the NEP. I said, what? NEP? Right. What is the Negro Exchange Program? And sure enough, that's what they did. So we have to be aware. I'm just talking to you. We have to be aware that the sociocultural factors that promote the internalization of stereotypes, that they're ongoing, and they're insidious, relentless, and unconscious. They're toxic and genocidal. And as a psychologist, in order for someone to have a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, these are the symptoms they have to experience. I came here today to say that I think our people are experiencing them. We've experienced it through disorganized adaptation syndromes, things I call like fly in the buttermilk syndrome. You're the only one and everybody sees you mess up. They can't see you do right. And what I call the dangerous minds syndrome, where we get brothers who are overeducated, overqualified, and never included, never promoted, and never given opportunity. We got the man enough syndrome. Our brothers who feel like they just have to prove themselves all the time. And then we got the one that Franklin and Franklin call the invisibility syndrome. They just can't see. Because you don't exist. And for our sisters, we have what I call the sapphire syndrome. We abuse our brothers, cut them down, castrate them, publicly and privately. We say things like, you don't have no money, so you can't get no honey. We got Jezebel sisters who just use men trying to prove their own sensuality and sexuality by getting A's and trashing it on. Well. Knowing that black women have the highest risk in the nation. And then still try to have sex without condoms. What is so loving about that? Then we got the sisters who are the mammy types. They take care of white folks and glad to do it. Those are ones that they hear it's going to be an uprising at work and they go and tell it on them. Then we got the sisters who are what I call the hoochie mamas. The hoochie mamas are like gangsters. They just go around dressing like boys, don't have nothing to do with nobody, and just doing everything. Or either they'll go to the extreme and be dressing real provocatively. All right. Like they got something to sell that you can't buy. Then the final one of these oppressive syndromes that I just want to briefly identify is called the drama queen syndrome of our sisters. These are sisters that can't be in a relationship without creating drama. If there's no drama, she'll find some. She's the kind that'll cut your tires, call your boss, and mess up your house. And then say it's your fault. One of my mentors, Dr. Joseph White, says that in order to overcome these syndromes, we got to realize that we have a rich and shared history. And I briefly want to just address, I know my time is up, Dr. Fagan is gone, so I can keep talking. No, I won't, I'm serious. But I want to briefly tell you the story of this little boy named Theo. Theo woke up one morning and he asked God, what if there were no black people on earth? And well, God thought about it and he said, well, son, follow me today and let's see what would happen if there were no black folks. So he said, get dressed and we'll get started. Then Theo ran to his room and he put on his clothes and he started to put on his shoes, but there were no shoes. And his clothes were all wrinkled. He looked for the iron, but when he did, he reached for the ironing board and it was no longer there. Because you see, Sarah Boone, a black woman, invented the ironing board, and Jan E. Macklinger, a black man, invented the shoe-lacing machine. Oh, well, God said, go ahead and do your hair. Theo ran to his room to get his comb, but there was no comb. You see, Walter Salmons, a black man, invented the comb. And then Theo decided, well, I'll just brush my hair, but there was no brush. Because you see, Lydia O. Newman, a black female, invented that brush. Well, he was a sight. No shoes, wrinkled clothes, hair a mess. Because he didn't have a hair care inventions of Madam C.J. Walker. Well, you know, you get the picture. Brother was looking kind of ragged. God told Theo, well, let's do the chores around the house and then take a trip to the grocery store. And Theo's job around the house was to sweep the floor, but he went to sweep, and he sweep and sweep. No, he found a broom, honey. But when he found the broom, he couldn't put the dirt anywhere because there was no dustbin. You see, Lord P. Ray, a black man, invented that dustpan. So he swept his pile of dirt over in a corner and he left it there and he decided, well, now it's time to mop the floor. But there was no mop. For you see, Thomas W. Stewart, a black man, invented the mop. Theo thought to himself, I'm having no luck at all. Well, son, God said, we should wash the clothes and prepare a list for the grocery store, don't you think? And he said, sure we will. So when Theo washed his clothes and when he finished and he got ready to put them in the dryer, guess what? No dryer. You see, George T. Salmon, a black man, invented the clothes dryer. Theo got a pencil and he began to make his grocery list and suddenly the lead broke. Woo, he got up, but he was way out of luck because John Love, a black man, invented the pencil sharpener. He reached for a pen and said, I'll use a pen, but it wasn't there because a black man invented the fountain pen. And as a matter of fact, Lee Berridge also invented the typewriting machine and W.A. Levette the printing press. So they decided to head out to the market. Well, then Theo opened the door. He noticed that the grass was as high as he was. He couldn't even get by because you see, it wasn't cut because the lawnmower had been invented by John Burke, a black man. They made their way over to the car and they found it just wouldn't go. You see, because Robert Spikes, a black man, invented the automatic gear shaft. And Joseph Gamble invented the supercharged system of internal combustion engines. They noticed that the few cars that were moving were just running into each other, crashing, creating wrecks because there was no traffic signal. Well, it was getting late, so they walked to the market and got their groceries and they returned home. And when they got there to put them up, they noticed that the refrigerator was gone. You see, John Stanford, a black man, invented the refrigerator. So they put the food on the counter, and by this time they noticed it was getting mighty cold, and Theo turned up the lights and the heat, and he said, what's going on? The heat won't move because Alice Parker, a black female, invented the heating furnace. All right. It was almost time for Theo's father to arrive home, and he usually took the bus, but there was no bus because its precursor, the electric trolley, it was invented by another black man, Albert T. Robinson. He usually took the elevator from his office on the 20th floor, but there was no elevator that day because Alexander Miles, a black man, invented the elevator. He usually dropped off the clothes at the office at a nearby mailbox. He couldn't do it that day because Philip Downing, a black man, invented the letter drop mailbox. And William Barry invented the postmarking and counseling machine. Theo sat there at the kitchen table with his hands in his hand, head in his hand. And when his father arrived, he asked him and said, Theo, what are you doing sitting there in the dark? Because Lewis Howard Latimer, a black man, invented the filament within the light bulb. Theo quickly learned that what would happen if there were no black people. Some of us forget that Charles Drew, a black scientist, found his way to preserve blood but died needing a transfusion. The irony of oppression is that eventually those who are oppressed will rise. We have to remember that our legacy is based on pain, that we've done a whole lot to come a long distance. And I close now with just a couple of poems to let you know why we should get up and what we're getting up for. I wrote a poem a few years ago when I was angry because they would talk about reparations and Clinton said the black folks didn't need any cash. That's the bottom line, you know that. And I wrote this poem called Apology. Here it goes. They say they want to apologize. And isn't it real good news? The country wants to wash away the lies and all of the abuse. The president is really thinking that it may just be the thing to offer an apology, say I'm sorry, to take away the sting. But can 3 words be so powerful as to bring such a relief as to wash away the awful and obliterate the grief? How do you say I'm sorry for beating you to death, for raping you, castrating you until you had nothing left? I'm sorry, you say, for spitting in your face and telling you constantly that you're an inferior race. I'm sorry, you say, for leaving your children at home alone, despite your fear and alarm, to watch my children while I was gone to keep them safe from harm. I'm sorry, you say, for making you porters and servants and maids and making you afraid to sleep at night because of midnight raids. I'm sorry, you say, for slavery, hot wood, Jim Crow and such, and the never-ending struggles that mean now just as much. I'm sorry, you say, for treating you like animals to buy and sell and trade, for forcing you to break your back until my profits were made. I'm sorry, you say, for shattering your innocence with toilets for blacks and whites, for making the word colored a word that you would fight. I'm sorry, you say, for telling you who you can marry and date and love by telling you it's not your will, but the will of God above. I'm sorry, you say, for creating places where you never gain in power, where you're always outnumbered and alone and worried every hour. I'm sorry, you say, for the times that you were discriminated and paid, the raises, the promotions, the opportunities thrown away. I'm sorry, you say, for the economic struggles, syphilis, HIV, and drug abuse, and the hopelessness that lingers still in the faces of your youth who have simply lost their will. I'm sorry, you say, for the fact that your men are all in jail or struggle daily, fighting upstream against the living hell. I'm sorry, you say, for making you victims of my desire, regardless of the cost, for squelching every hope-filled fire until your strength was lost. They say they want to apologize. Isn't that real good news? And offer remuneration for the Indian, the Japanese, the Jews. But for the ones whose faces are dark, there is no worthy compensation. Yet we are the ones who, against our will, foster the birth and prosperity of this nation. So, Mr. President, you're really thinking that it may just be the thing to offer an apology to take away the sting? And do you think that those 3 words are so powerful as to bring a ray of hope, a fresh new start, a new let freedom ring? Do you really think that just saying it will bring about such relief as to wash away the awful and obliterate the grief? Well, Mr. President, I've got 3 words for you. Apology not accepted. What we have to realize is that we can't walk through a world filled with apology. We need behavior change. We need behavior change. And we can't own the fact that sometimes the behavior change has to start within us. It has to start within us, believing that we are divinely created, that we are meant to connect, not disconnect. Remembering that our hope stands in realizing that we stand on great and mighty shoulders, and that we do have to offer shoulders to our future generations. So I close finally with my poem, and y'all know I always gotta do Still I Rise. Because despite everything we go through, we gotta know we came a mighty long way. So I'll begin with that poem. And y'all know it's Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. She says, you may write me down in history as a black woman, as a black man, as a hopeful individual, with your bitter, twisted lies. And you may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like air, I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why you beset with gloom? Because I walk out like I've got all well pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainties of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Didn't you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes and shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? And does my haughtiness offend? Don't you take it off of heart, because I still laugh like I got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may cut me, you may shoot me with your words, and you may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. And for the sisters, does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance, honey, like I got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Out from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling. I bear in the tide. Leaving behind rights of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. Because I am the hope. I am the hope and dream of the slave. And at this point, I gotta get you to do this one more thing. I'm just gonna point your direction, and I want you to say as loud as you can, stand up and say, I am the hope and I rise. You gotta help me out, because you know what? If I don't leave here with you believing that you're my hope, that we are each other's hope, then I would have wasted my time. And every moment of my life is precious to me. And I don't want to think that you leave not knowing who you are and why you are. Your name is Hope. From this side, please, stand. And just repeat after me and stay up. Keep that energy going. I am the hope and I rise.
I am the hope and I rise.
And I ask the people in the center. To claim that power and say, I am the hope and I rise.
I am the hope and I rise.
Right. And in this last group, and my podium sisters and brothers, I am the hope and I rise.
I am the hope and I rise.
So y'all sounding kind of tired over there. Come on. One more time, last group.
I am the hope and I rise.
Okay, so now I'm going to point to your group and I want you to just say it. First group.
I am the hope.
Second group.
I am the hope and I rise.
Second group.
things and I just have boring things to tell you, but they have to be told. I'd like to invite Maria Baxter, who has some announcements to make.
Tomorrow night is the Pan-Afrikan Talent Celebration. And I'm kind of proud of it because I'm sort of in charge of it. The reason I'm so excited is because every year I get to meet some fantastic young folks. Folks that are volunteering at an early age, that are learning to give back to their community, that are learning to respect their elders, that are learning to be the kind of responsible young adults that I, as an elder, and I just turned an elder this year. So some other folks been elders for a long time. But we won't go into that. Anyway, I hope that all of you will be there tomorrow night. That's our culminating event. And we have a good time, but you'll see some fantastic talent. All of us are special, but these young folks are unique because they're getting up there and sharing of themselves, sharing with you. And at this point in time, I would like to introduce you to them, and they will stand up. You will see them walking around with sashes on. Amber Boxley. Amber is from Greenville College, and we are so excited that she's here. Smiling, but look up, okay. Charles Dixon.
Yeah.
Charles from Augsburg. And yesterday it was kind of funny because he was looking kind of down and kind of sad and kind of tired. And I kind of made him go look up some information for me, but he got it. And this morning he came with a bright smile on his face, and I said, that's it. That's the way I want to see him every day. Brother Joe, you got a fantastic young man down there. Did I already everybody else say fantastic? I just, anyway. Lou Roberts. He's from Mankato State University. And, I had to tease him a little bit because, first of all, I was glad that from Morehead they had come. But we were eating dinner, and one of the young men I think I promised to make him a sweet potato pie for next year. Who did I do that? Oh, you, okay. But I'm sure Lou will get a piece of it. And I'm gonna mess this up, but you're gonna help me with it. We are kin folks. We are Shante. This is Afua. Agina. Okay. She is first generation American, but she's from Ghana. And she is from Blackburn College. Hey, we covered this shit. And Drew McGinley. Drew is one of our youngest contestants this year, but this young man has been involved in so much. He is a peer tutor and big brother type person at the Boys and Girls Club. He's one of the leaders in South Minneapolis, okay, in their club. He is not just saying, and he ain't out there on the corner. All right. Okay, and he's doing what he should be doing, and probably getting a little slack from the other brothers at school, but that's okay, baby, don't worry about it, because you're doing the right thing. Did I get everybody? Everybody still standing? Okay, contestants, please come and support them. If there's anyone out there that thinks that they still might want to be in the contest, please contact me and let me know, and we'll talk about it. But for everybody that's here, please give your support to these young folks and congratulate them for having the strength and the leadership to be in this contest. Thank you.
I think everybody has at your table or their group their evaluation forms. If you can just spend a minute filling it out, it's not that complicated. If you can leave it at the table, it'll be picked up later. It helps the planning committee plan next year's program, like we said. Folks, this is coming to an end of this program, and I want to thank you for being a real attentive audience. I think a lot of things were said that needed to be said, and I hope they were heard. The next program takes place in Austrian Auditorium, which is on the next floor down here. We're asking that you